Hello, my name is Pastor Russell Martin, and welcome to the Lake Houston UMC Safe Sanctuary Training online video. We are glad that you are willing to give of your time and use your gifts to serve with our children and youth of Lake Houston UMC. So you may be asking, what is Safe Sanctuary? Well, let me begin with this. Jesus said, "Whoever welcomes a child welcomes me." Children are our present and our future, our hope, our teachers, our inspiration. They are full participants in the life of the church and in the realm of God. And God calls us to make our churches safe places, protecting children, youth, and other vulnerable persons from abuse. God calls us to create communities of faith where children and adults grow safe and strong. And Safe Sanctuaries is our response to this church-wide challenge. All United Methodist congregations, regardless of size, are required to implement policies and procedures to make sure that no harm comes to those under the age of 18 or vulnerable adults while they are in our care and ministry. And the guidelines and procedures of our Safe Sanctuary policy have been established so that by following them, we can best protect everyone and give a safe place for all to grow in the love and grace and knowledge of Jesus Christ. Lake Houston UMC is committed to demonstrating the love of Jesus Christ so that each child will be surrounded by steadfast love, established in the faith, and confirmed and strengthened in the way that leads to life eternal. Now, we want to let you know, this video will cover the basic policies, guidelines, and procedures that we follow here at Lake Houston UMC, which are compliant with our conference guidelines as well. It will include things such as what the Safe Sanctuary policy is, as we've already talked about, and why it's important. Our process of becoming Safe Sanctuary certified. We'll talk about definitions of abuse, what to do when you suspect abuse has happened, the 2-adult rule, which is the basis of our Safe Sanctuary policy, and appropriate discipline, physical and emotional boundaries. However, we do ask that you not only rely on this video, but that you download and read through the entire Safe Sanctuary policy using the link in the description or on our website. To be Safe Sanctuary certified, you are agreeing that you understand the entire policy. So, who is this for? Well, Safe Sanctuary is for anyone who has direct contact with children or youth activities or events sponsored by Lake Houston UMC. This would include small group leaders, nursery workers, vacation Bible school volunteers, drivers for events, all staff and parent volunteers. There are occasions where youth under the age of 18 assist with small groups, children ministry, youth ministry, and other areas. Though these individuals do not have to have a background check, it is still recommended that all persons who are in leadership over children and youth familiarize themselves with the basics of the Safe Sanctuary policy. All volunteers must either be members of Lake Houston UMC for 1 year, have the recommendation of a pastor from their previous church, or be recommended by current members of Lake Houston UMC. This ensures that we know all those who are working with our children and youth. Ministry leaders should be 5 years older than those they are charged with caring for. College students less than 5 years may assist, but should not serve as the main leader for the ministry. Safe Sanctuary training and acknowledgement of any changes to this policy are required every 2 years, and background checks are required annually. So, here are the basics of the Safe Sanctuary policy. Again, volunteers, you're responsible for adhering to the entire policy available for download on our Safe Sanctuary page. So, what are those basics? Well, first let's talk about the process. You have begun the first step of the process by watching this training video or attending an in-person training. After this video, there will be a short quiz for you to take online covering the basics of our Safe Sanctuary policy. Then, you'll need to download the packet and fill out the background check form located on pages 30 through 34 or Appendix C. Please turn this form into the church office and allow 3 to 5 days for your background check to be processed. Once processed, you will be notified and your ministry leader will help you begin in ministry. What is abuse? Well, physical abuse is any act of omission or an act that endangers a person's physical or mental health. In the case of child or youth physical abuse, this definition includes any intentional physical injury caused by the individual's caretaker. Sexual abuse. Child or youth sexual abuse is the sexual exploitation or use of the same for satisfaction of sexual drives. This includes, but is not limited to, things such as incest, rape, prostitution, romantic involvement with any participant, any sexual intercourse or sexual conduct with or fondling of an individual enrolled as a child or youth in sponsored activities of this church, sexualized behavior that communicates sexual interest and or content. So what do you do if you suspect abuse is happening somewhere else, or you notice that something happens within our church? If an adult worker or volunteer observes or suspects abuse or the violation of our policy, these steps must be taken. Address any immediate needs the child or youth may have. Report your concerns to the main event coordinator. Cooperate with leadership and authorities throughout the crisis. If an adult suspects that abuse or suspected violation of the Texas Penal Code has taken place, you need to call 911 when needed and report the abuse to the appropriate law enforcement agency or the Department of Protective and Regulatory Services. Further guidelines for reporting abuse can be found on page 8 and page 19 of the Safe Sanctuary Policy. The main way that we keep children, youth, and adults protected is by use of the 2-adult rule. So what is the 2-adult rule? Well, it's just like it sounds. We require there be 2 unrelated adults to be present in all programming events and ministries involving youth or children. If there happens to be an event where 2 unrelated adults cannot be present, the event will need to be canceled or rescheduled for a later time. When the event involves splitting into smaller groups, however, we aim to have 2 adults present in each group, but we do recognize that there are times when this may not be feasible. So in those cases, we ask that small groups have at least 1 adult in each room and keep their door open to their rooms. Then an additional adult can float in the hallway between the rooms, providing coverage as that second adult. No matter what, 1 adult and 1 youth should never be behind closed doors together. For those working with younger students, sometimes we wonder what to do when a student needs to go to the bathroom and for us to stay still compliant with Safe Sanctuary. If a child needs assistance, like pre-K or younger, then a worker assisting should leave the door open and be in line of sight of another adult as they assist that child. Children older than 5 are permitted to go to the bathroom as needed unassisted. Workers are encouraged to stand outside the door, being able to assist when needed. And when assisting, the door should be propped open and alert another adult. The world has changed quickly, and digital communication is the mainstay of ministry and communication today. We recommend that adults continue to follow the 2-adult rule in digital communication as well. It's always recommended that adults include another adult in a text conversation with a student, especially when it's of a personal nature. Move the conversation to a public or group online space as soon as possible, and or arrange for a personal meeting in a public space, such as the next youth meeting or event, to take care of these conversations. Let's talk about appropriate discipline. Children and youth should be made aware that appropriate behavior is expected at all events. Gentle reminders are always necessary when dealing with children and youth. And when these reminders don't work, then discipline needs to move to the next step. In cases where behavior has to be addressed, designated event adults should handle it. In no case is physical discipline an appropriate measure to deal with problems. A reasonable response might include a period of timeout for the child or youth, but this should be done when necessary and with supervision, keeping Safe Sanctuary guidelines in mind. Appropriate physical and emotional boundaries. Physical boundaries are most important when dealing with children and youth. Persons working with children and youth have to understand and respect those boundaries. And obviously, these boundaries change as children grow older. A young child sitting in the lap of a caregiver is mostly appropriate, whereas an older child or youth sitting in the adult's lap might not be as acceptable. Hugs and kisses from a toddler to an adult are entirely different than the same from a youth. However, please recognize that students do need touch and physical contact. Holding hands while praying or circling up for dinner, putting a hand on a shoulder, or giving a side hug. These are appropriate in most contexts. Please, though, always be aware of the students you are working with and make wise decisions in your interactions. Emotional boundaries are also important. As a child grows older, it's important for the adult to maintain appropriate boundaries in relationships. It's important for those working with children and youth to not step outside those lines and allow the younger person to become too attached. It's important for the older person to be careful where conversations might lead and to steer clear of inappropriate talk or emotional connection. When an adult recognizes that there may be an issue with these boundaries, they should create some space in the relationship and make sure that another adult is aware as well. If that doesn't solve the problem, then the event leadership should also be brought in and address the issue. I want to thank you for taking time to go over the basics of our Safe Sanctuary policy. So far in this video, we have covered what the Safe Sanctuary policy is and why it's important, the process of Lake Houston UMC to become Safe Sanctuary certified, definitions of abuse, what to do to report suspected abuse, the 2-adult rule, which is the basis of our Safe Sanctuary policy, and appropriate discipline, physical and emotional boundaries. Please remember to download our complete policy and read it thoroughly. Also take the short Google Forms quiz following this video. Turn in your Safe Sanctuary background check form to the office or your ministry leader. We thank you again for volunteering to work with our children and youth here at Lake Houston UMC.